Imagine you had access to some of the most closely guarded secrets in the United States. Military bombings and attacks occur at precise times, and you have no idea what is happening. You get classified information on a particular aircraft's flight and landing and confidential evaluations of the operation's success. How would this all make you feel? Would you leave the group chat immediately or wait until you get more of the military's classified information? This seems like the plot of a spy thriller, doesn't it? However, this is not a work of fiction. It occurred in March 2025 and posed a significant threat to the United States national security. A person was secretly invited and added to the secret military group chat. If it was a mistake, it could have been anyone who was added. But the person who happened to be the group's latest member was not an ordinary man, but a renowned journalist. In March 2025, a troubling situation unfolded as senior officials within the Trump administration accidentally extended an information to Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to participate in a confidential signal group discussion concerning classified operations targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels. Goldberg had assumed a quiet role within the group, absorbing the information presented while grappling with a profound sense of disbelief. He sensed the situation's intensity but stayed silent and kept reading the conversation between the officials. Hello, and welcome back to Global Eye, where we investigate stories that significantly influence our planet. Today, we will discuss the publication of the military strategy that the Trump administration is pursuing in Yemen. This is one of the most alarming breaches in recent records. To what extent did an unauthorized journalist participate in a discussion on national security at the Pentagon? How does this impact the relationships between the United States of America, Europe, and Yemen? The number of suspicions spreading concerning Russian involvement is growing alarmingly. Let's find out what's going on here. This was not a usual security breach, but a typically dangerous one, as many officials at higher military and government-level positions were part of this chat, and someone mistakenly or secretly invited Jeffrey Goldberg. For Goldberg, it was like having a peek into the United States war room during active military operations while communicating via a civilian messaging application. At the moment, it is a problem involving the nation's security due to tons of things. Firstly, if the information was classified, why were these officials using a standard communication application and not the secured ones? Secondly, who and why did someone add the journalist of The Atlantic magazine to this group? Also, what measures has the government taken to secure their communication platforms to avoid this happening again? This chat was so high level that 17 high-ranking officers from various departments were part of it. It includes Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, J.D. Vance, Vice President, Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, General Michael E. Kurilla, Commander of U.S. Central Command, and some other representatives from the State Department, CIA, and Pentagon, whose names have not been disclosed by the concerned authorities. The US Vice President began the conversation, showing his hatred for the advantages that Europeans are getting. He said 3% of US trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. In the leaked conversation on the Signal app, Vance said he hated bailing Europe again. He claimed that the strikes on Houthis and the subsequent unblocking of trade routes would greatly benefit Europe. Later on, Waltz criticized the quality and capabilities of European navies. It will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the President's request, we are working with the DoD and the state to determine how to compile the associated costs and levy them on the Europeans, Trump's national security advisor said. The officials kept on conversing about the Europeans and their thoughts about them. Hegseth said, "I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic." These are big remarks, especially from individuals who are part of the current US government and are posted to such high and intense ranks. The conversation didn't end there. Goldberg stayed in that group for 6 days and read even more critical messages. For instance, Hegseth shared a team update detailing the exact launch times of fighter jets and drones, stating, "This is when the first bombs will definitely drop." To Goldberg, it was very troublesome, shocking, and unbelievable. The leak of military plans has significant implications for national security. Senator Mark Warner, chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, blasted the incident as reckless and sloppy. He further emphasized his opposition to such acts and hinted that this could result in some essential dismissals from the military. One of the reasons this conversation can cause trouble for Trump's government and the US overall is operational exposure. The adversaries, Yemen's Houthi rebels to be precise, would have insights into the US military tactics. This could assist them in understanding the strike patterns and pieces of information on aircraft. These could be used to prepare for countermeasures, and many other opponents of the US can benefit from them. Further, it can also become a potential threat to US personnel and allies. Another reaction this leak can spark is a massive reaction from the public. The criticism is widespread, questioning the Trump administration's abilities to handle such sensitive and classified data. This could undermine trust in US military operations, ignite mistrust in allies, and strain the US relations with them overall. The political storm that followed the article's publication about the leak was also undeniable. Senator Angus King, IME, said, "Targets and timing are always classified. This is inexcusable." Although Jeffrey Goldberg did not want to become the central figure in this story, his accidental inclusion in the signal discussion revealed a shocking breach in the White House's security measures. How did a journalist become privy to the most secret military preparations in the United States? What was Goldberg's role, and what was his reaction? On March 11th, an account named Michael Waltz, Trump's national security advisor, sent a signal request to Goldberg. Goldberg received the request. Although skeptical, he accepted the offer, and a few days later he was added to the Houthi PC Small Group, a group where leaders such as Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth discussed the specifics of the attack in real time. Initially, Goldberg believed it was a prank or a technical issue. However, Hegseth sent him a text message with exact strike timings and weapon specifications only hours before bombs were dropped in Yemen. While everyone was criticizing Trump's cabinet and military officials, Donald Trump was doing the opposite. He defended Waltz as a good man who learned a lesson, dismissing the leak as a hoax. The general public's response has been quite strong, with many people demanding investigations and changes to avoid events of a similar kind. Democratic legislators have taken the position that the leak constituted a severe violation of national security and have asked that Congress investigate the matter. There is also backlash from the media and the general public. Because The Atlantic revealed conversation screenshots, the administration was obliged to take action to repair the damage. Members of the Trump administration referred to Goldberg as a sleazebag, while Democrats praised him as a whistleblower. Public opinion was divided. 51% thought it was risky, while 32% said it was a witch hunt. Goldberg's reputation as a Trump critic contributed to the divisiveness. Just a few hours after the leak, rumors started circulating that Moscow was involved. Had Russian agents been listening in on the conversation, or was this a calculated attempt to undermine the stability of operations in the United States? There are numerous rumors about Russian exploitation, and many people have theories about it. Cybersecurity experts have identified weaknesses in signal that Russian GRU hackers might exploit. These hackers have previously intercepted encrypted talks using linked device attacks. Steve Witkoff's travel to Moscow. During the conversation, Steve Witkoff, who is Trump's Middle East envoy, was in Russia. He disclosed that he was using a secure government phone but could not access his personal devices. His silence throughout the conversation was attributed to Kremlin spying, according to conspiracy theorists. Here are some of the conspiracy theories that are revolving everywhere. First, there is the false flag to frame Trump theory. Goldberg was allegedly planted to give the administration a bad name, according to certain MAGA circles. However, this is not supported by any evidence. The second theory is a Kremlin-backed leak. The NSC has stated that foreign actors might have accessed the chat, even though there is no evidence linking Russia to the breach. The Atlantic's disclosure of operational information, such as F-18 timings, demonstrated that opponents may have changed their defences, but there is no evidence that they did. US officials must keep a strict check on this to avoid any such happenings in the future. It has become a proxy war in the politics of the United States. The media portrayed this as a deep state diversion by the right wing. The threats to the soldiers were emphasized by MSNBC and CNN, citing former CIA personnel. Washington was not the only party embarrassed by the plan's revelation. The Houthis were also given a possible playbook. This resulted in a few operations being postponed. The messages, written by Hegseth, disclosed precise attack timings, targets, and armaments, such as Tomahawk missiles. If the Houthis had been able to intercept the conversation, they may have shifted troops or ambushed pilots. Following disclosing the information, the Central Command, CENTCOM, adjusted its timetables and varied its platforms, such as stealth drones, to counteract the expected Houthi preparation. There were fallouts even more significant than this. Tensions between the United States and Yemen have increased. The leak did not help Trump's maximum pressure policy. Houthi propaganda portrayed it as an example of American negligence. Iranian advantage is also there, as it has widely prepared all the countries that have been on the US radar for a long time. Tehran most certainly shared intelligence with proxies, which led to an increase in strikes in the Red Sea. Despite the ongoing uncertainty, the price of oil increased by 4%. However, the question is how the Trump administration's restoration of damage is ongoing. The White House went into a frenzy to manage the repercussions as opponents sought resignations from the administration. But did their solutions meet the requirements? The answer is a clear no, as we can see the defection and denials all over the media in the official statements. In response, Trump referred to it as a glitch and criticized Goldberg. The conversation logs challenged his assertion that no war plans were shared. Waltz's Elon Musk gambit involved claiming that Musk's team would examine the technical error, which drew derision from the audience. One of the proposed solutions is polygraph examinations for National Security Council employees, signal bans for secret conversations, and lead-lined conference rooms, which is one of Trump's concepts. The Yemen military leak story is not simply another debate in Washington. Instead, it is a blazing red warning flag about the failure of the procedures that the United States of America uses to ensure national security. Jeffrey Goldberg was included in that fatal signal discussion in an unknown manner, and what he saw should scare every American. Top officials casually debated live military attacks like fantasy football, and there were no precautions to prevent foreign eavesdropping. This wasn't simply a case of carelessness, it was a case of institutional decay. The information released about the operations, including the precise attack timings, weapon specifications, and damage estimates, was a present package for Tehran and Moscow. And what is the most unsettling aspect? Nobody needed to be a hacker. The government of Donald Trump, via its pure ineptitude, has given our playbook to our other foes. This incident showed a security establishment sleeping at the wheel, from Waltz's ridiculous explanation of a technical error to the perilous dependence on commercial applications for confidential communications. In addition, although junior enlisted personnel would be subject to court material for comparable disclosures, the individuals responsible for this calamity would not face any punishment, even though our soldiers' lives were possibly at risk. The collapse of empires occurs not with a resounding explosion, but with a notice of signal. Let there be no doubt about it, the harm is already rapidly increasing. This leak resulted in the United States Department of Defense having to discard whole attack packages and retool their plan for Yemen, resulting in the loss of millions of dollars and giving the Houthis the initiative. At this moment, our friends are beginning to doubt whether or not we can be trusted with shared intelligence, while our enemies, ranging from Beijing to Moscow, are gathering information about our weaknesses. But what about the so-called fixes? Testing using polygraphs and rooms lined with lead. The purpose of the security theatre is to divert attention away from the actual problem. A flawed system that protects the powerful while putting people on the front lines at risk. Two horrible realities are brought to light by this scandal. For starters, the United States national security infrastructure has grown dangerously complacent. Second, the next leak might ultimately result in the deaths of American citizens if there is no radical accountability. If officials like Waltz and Hegseth are not genuinely held accountable for their actions, we are unable to turn away because of this. It is for this reason that you must pay attention. Any concerns about Russian participation should be given careful consideration. Online conspiracy theories abound, yet there is still a dearth of hard proof connecting Moscow to this hack. This instance did not immediately reveal the digital fingerprints that usually accompany sophisticated Russian operations. However, strategic experts point out that any operational security lapse by the United States in the Middle East, where Moscow has made a concerted effort to increase its influence, indirectly favors Russia. In addition to undermining confidence between Washington and its regional partners, the episode leaves information gaps that rivals may take advantage of, outcomes consistent with long-term Russian goals. Intelligence experts advise against making hasty judgments in the absence of forensic proof. Attribution in cyber incidents is notoriously difficult, said Rebecca Townsend, a former CIA expert. Sometimes more complex actions might be hidden by what seems to be a basic human mistake. This hack serves as a reminder that the distinction between foreign influence and chance is becoming increasingly hazy in contemporary information warfare. Nowadays, when wars are fought in cyberspace before the first shot is fired, we have just shown our adversaries precisely where we are susceptible to attack. Will we learn from this disaster, or will we sleepwalk into the next one? Is the question that has to be answered. Leave your thoughts in the comments section and press the subscribe button. We do not shy away from the harsh realities of this channel. Maintain your vigilance and keep yourself informed, and we will see you shortly.